What's up, everybody? Nick Powell's publisher of 1851franchise.com here with another episode of Meet the Zor. If you like these episodes, click subscribe and you can meet other franchise brands. Today, we're talking Art of Drawers. Coming up next. Actually, first we're talking Allan. Then we'll get into the brand stuff. I like the people side. So, Allan, tell me your franchise story. How did you accidentally fall into franchising?
Yeah, I think definitely accidentally. I think most people accidentally fall into it. I don't think people grow up saying I want to go into franchising unless maybe they have a parent or somebody in it. But yeah, never thought I'd be a purveyor of wooden shelving either. I was a serial entrepreneur. I had 14 businesses before high school. So I started my first one when I was 5. And then when I went to high school, my high school guidance counselor told me, you can't be an entrepreneur. You need to go work in corporations, big companies for 10, 20 years. And then maybe, because this was 88. So that was back when entrepreneur was not a cool word. It was your crazy uncle that lost all of his money twice. So, that kind of deflated me. I'm like, okay, ended up going in the Army though, which is great. Got a scholarship and an RTC scholarship, got commissioned after college, became an officer in the Army for 5 years active duty. And what's interesting about that is the Army, especially as an officer, it's very entrepreneurial. And because your commander will give you a mission for your unit to go do something, like, here's what you need to go do, accomplish this mission. And then it's up to you to figure out how to get there based on the resources you have. And all the planning you do kind of goes out the window once you get in the battlefield, because the enemy does not care about your plan. And I think that's the same in business. Like all the different things that we're dealing with externally to us in our businesses, whether it's the economy or COVID, those things don't care about our plan. So having a plan is great, but then learning to adjust off of that. When I got out of active duty in the military, I really went back to starting businesses. So I started a home automation company. This is back right after 9/11, which is kind of one of those big events where people are staying at home, big shift. So we started doing home automation. That went really well. I ended up selling it pretty quickly after about 1.5 to 2 years, because it wasn't something I was passionate about. The numbers were great, but I definitely wasn't helping people. I was just giving more people stuff that already had a lot of stuff. And then I started an indoor air quality company, which I was very passionate about, cleaning people's air in their homes. That business, I started out and did 1.3 million my first year, 37% net profit. And I was kind of riding high, although I was working a ton. I got a note from the Army saying, you're getting deployed. I was a reserve officer.
Wow.
Had about 6 months to get ready. So I went to sell that. And that's when I learned a really powerful, difficult lesson, which was I was the business. When I went to sell it, I got an earnout. I got no cash up front. They said 6 months into this, we'll pay you a small percentage of revenue for a longer period of time. And that never happened because they went out of business in 4 months. And it was for all the reasons that they were thinking. They're like, you're the business. I did 980,000 of the 1.3 million. My close rate was 76%. My best sales guy's close rate was 40%. So like if you walked out of the business, your best sales guy ran, you would have lost money. So that was a powerful lesson when I came back from my deployment. Right before I left for my deployment, I had about 3 months where I turned over the keys to the business. And I think I did what everybody does when they don't have a job. I went to Office Max and got business cards printed up that said Allan Young Consultant. So I was a small business consultant for a few months in this small company in Richmond. They had about 5 employees. Started in this guy's garage. They were starting to expand. They were doing custom pull-out shelving, and they hired me to come up with a plan to expand. And ironically, they wanted to go in franchising. I talked them out of it. They had no systems, processes, but I talked them into, the plan was to do a dealer model. So I gave them the plan. That's what they hired me to do. When I came back, I asked them how their plan was going. And they said, the plan's great. We're just waiting for you to come back and do the plan. So I became a partner in the company. And then I started doing that model. As we were doing the dealer model, I started opening up cities, Chicago, Milwaukee, Twin Cities, Atlanta, Birmingham. And I put in a call center, started developing technology. And then about 1.5 years later, I woke up and said, this is a franchise. This is something that we can franchise. We're doing 4 to 5 million a year. I wasn't living in any of those cities. We had all the systems and processes. So we started franchising in the fall of 2008, which is a fun time to be franchising.
All right, tons that I want to unpack from this. One is the lessons that you learned in life. I mean, that's basically what your story was. Like, here's the roadblock that I hit. Here's what I learned. Here's how I carried that over to my next business over and over and over again. Does that end up being your superpower? Is that they weren't failures, they were roadblocks, but you're able to recognize what those feel like? And does that help you in coaching a first-time franchisee through the process when they're hitting these same roadblocks? So you're like, look, I've been there, I've gone through it. I know you have to trust me that I know what I'm talking about. But is that your superpower?
Yeah, I think, and I would call them failures. I'm a big fan of failures. One of our core values in our company is celebrate failure when we learn from it.
Right.
And that's really, I think that's the only time I learn. I either learn from my failures or observing others. Yeah, I think I fail better than most. I'm really good at failing, which is when that happens, it's really adjusting. So in the military, I learned something, which is you plan, rehearse, then you execute. And then after you execute, what went well, what didn't go well, and then you adjust. And it's just a continuous cycle of plan, execute, and adjust. And I think I'm good at that. And I think that's huge when it comes to coaching franchise partners, because that's really the things you do, how you do it, all those systems are there. It's a matter of following the system. It's really the fear that comes into play, the fear of failure. I think that's really what drives people to, they kind of just sort of curl up in a ball sometimes in the fetal position, because there's so much fear coming at them. And a lot of that fear is fear of failure in public. There's most things in their life up to that point. If they failed, no one needed to know about it. You didn't get to law school, no one needs to know you applied to law school. But if you fail in a business, it's very public. And I think that's the struggle that most people have, is that fear of, and they put a lot of money in, but I think the fear of failing in public is a big one. So coach a lot on what's going on between the ears. That's the most important thing when you're starting any business.
I hear September 11th. I hear 2008. I hear deployment. I mean, going through those shifts, and you talk about it, your plan is worthless. No one really cares about your plan. You got to go execute against it. Does knowing what those events felt like, did that change your perception going into COVID? And obviously, you're in a business category that probably skyrocketed during COVID, but did that change your approach?
Well, yeah, I think you have to be able to adjust very quickly, and that's what, starting a franchise the fall of 2008 was fantastic, because number one, we grew. We're an Inc. 500 company in 2009, 10, 11. We're the number one fastest growing home service franchise. We thrived really for two reasons. When things get difficult in the economy, people franchise more, because you got people who lost their six-figure job. They're trying to figure out what to do. Am I going to get another one, or maybe do I go start my own thing? But we did really well in a difficult economy, a recession, because people stopped gutting their kitchens and doing brand new kitchens. They do smaller, affordable upgrades. So we really did well during that recession. I think going into and really pivoting a lot. We did a lot of pivoting, because when you're starting out, if you think about it, like, that's the only world we were born into, a recession. So that's the only world we ever knew. I think it's the companies got really comfortable operating in an environment that didn't have those challenges. So I think a lot about that as we go into, COVID or any kind of other difficult time, is we've got to be able to learn and adapt. AI is obviously very big. Everybody's talking about it, but we're doing a lot of the hard work to actually adopt it, because 5 years from now, it's going to be like, if you're not on the internet 5 years after that came out, you're done. If you're not embracing AI and learning it, you're going to be done, or you're going to be struggling on the bottom.
See art of drawers as a business, but when unpacking your journey, we're talking about entrepreneur, talking about leader. Do you keep on thinking about what is the art of next, and how many extensions of this you could have?
No, because I've done that before. I've started way too many companies. I think focus is really critical at this point. And part of the story is this is kind of what's next. So when I franchised Shelf Genie, so Art of Drawers was franchised. It's been less than a year. I started franchising Shelf Genie in the fall of 2008. We grew that very rapidly. 2016, something happened where we got so big, where we had 250 locations. We had thousands of people in the field, and innovation really came to a crawl. And there wasn't really anything I could do about it. When you get that big, it just gets slower and slower. And it would take us 6 months just to roll out a very simple new product addition. So I got very frustrated, and I was thinking about how do I work around this. And what I came up with was start a new brand. And I looked at Toyota. Toyota started Lexus, and all they did is upscale the brand. They took that same car and made it better, and that was their play. So really, Art of Drawers is that was the playbook for Art of Drawers. And the idea was we would take the top performing Shelf Genie franchise partners and award them an Art of Drawers, much like Toyota dealers. The top ones got a Lexus dealership. And before that could happen, a couple years into ideating that, Neighborly came along, wanted to buy Shelf Genie. So I had a couple of partners and some investors that have been in for over a decade. They wanted to get out. It was the right thing to do. So sold Shelf Genie to Neighborly, but we spent about $5 million on this tech package, a CRM system that really runs everything and allows us to do everything at scale very quickly and very efficiently. So our franchise partners can focus only on growing their business. So I licensed that technology to Neighborly, but we own it. We've been further developing it. And then we've just really upgraded everything since then.
All right, more to unpack. I'm gonna give two statements when I was looking at your website. One, I think your story is so phenomenal, and I've always felt like brands don't sell brands, people do. And if I'm gonna bet on someone, I'm gonna bet on you as the jockey, not on the horse, which ends up being the business. The business could change over and over again, but as long as you're involved in something, I would follow you. When I land on your website, you say, bring Art of Drawers to your area. That's not a why you or why now. And so I look at that message, I'm like, oh, it's so much bigger than this. Even what you were just talking about, investing in the tech stack, you're doing that so that if someone wanted to enter into this category, business category, they couldn't do it. That's one. And two, look at everything that we're giving you for arguably the same royalty percentage that so many other brands charge, but look at what you actually get from us. When I watched your video, the first thing your franchisees start talking about is the support structure. Like they couldn't believe how much support was behind it. But when I watched that video, it's first name only, even your first name only. It's not extending the life story here. And I want to go connect with these people online because I'm seeing the journey. And the last comment I'll say, I know I'm throwing a whole bunch at you. I was like, what is my aha when I'm looking at your website and I see how we work, our customer journey? I was like, boy, is that also a franchisee journey? Because conception, I've decided that I'm going to leave my job. The design, I'm designing the life that I want to live, and I'm building a business plan to align a brand to it. The installation that happens when I've decided to actually go to Discovery Day, and enjoyment, what happens after that. I was like, there it is. Like, that's the franchise process. And so I'm looking, because it goes back to all of us accidentally falling into franchising. If none of us understand what franchising is, then franchisors that educate the buyer, which everything in your DNA, everything about your story aligns to that moment. I was like, the customer journey, if you use that as your franchise journey, the same speech, I think it could really resonate well with someone that's looking at the business. So those are some of the things that I noticed as not huge gaps, but I want more people's story. I want your story. I want you to educate me on franchising and lift up your franchisees. Any feedback on those weird?
No, I think that's good feedback. I think our franchise opportunity page definitely has room for improvement. We outsource our franchise sales to a great company that I've known for years, and I did the same thing with Shelf Genie. I firmly believe that when you start franchising, you can only be good at one of two things: selling franchises or supporting franchises. So we work with them on that, and we work a lot with consultants. But I think for those that are looking into franchising, trying to figure it out, those things are really good. I talked to them in a founder's call, but that's pretty far along in the journey. But one of the things we want to get across is really whenever I start a business, and whenever anybody starts a business, you only have one problem, and it's a sales problem. And I love that problem. So I would go out and solve for it. And then I'd wake up the next day and now I have an operations problem. And I'd go work on the operations problem. Then I had a sales problem. And it's like a pendulum and just swing really fast from one extreme to the other. So we spend a lot of time. We do all the media buying, all the ad placements, all the creative, all the digital marketing. We generate a lot of appointments. We know how to do that. We measure it in our CRM system down to the penny. Everything's got a unique phone number. We know exactly where everything's coming from, so we can dial in and out of the right marketing campaigns. And then when the phone rings or the web leads come in, we have a sales support center that calls and schedules appointments for our franchise partners. Their installers, they assign it to their installers. We train them. The installers go out and do the full job. Really, all they need to do once they get the standard stuff set up in their business is focus on recruiting, training, and coaching their designers. And they're not employees. We have a no employee model. They're contractors, paid commission only, and that's their only focus. So that's a big part of the lifestyle. If you're interested in operating a bit, being an operator and all the behind the scenes operation stuff, we're not for you. If you want to focus only on growing your business and being supported on the back end, that's where we're focused on.
What I love, a few things that I love what you just said. You can either sell or you can support. So we outsource the sales side. I think that's another message that should be lifted up in the contract of what you're doing, because I think if you look at any high growth accelerator brand, I would say over the last 2 to 3 years, you're seeing some stories where they went on the high acceleration on the sales side and there was no infrastructure behind it. And so now you have, in my opinion, you put at risk people's life savings when you mess around with that,
It's huge. And yeah, I think that's a big problem. Luckily, I think the people that struggle with that the most are the brick and mortar. And so they'll sell a ton of them and they can't get them open up because of what you said, the infrastructure. Our average time to open at this point is 32 days. So we get people open very quickly. There's no infrastructure. We help them find very quickly a small storage space. They're not signing a 5-year lease or any kind of commitment. They're opened up very quickly. Their only CapEx is building a home show display, and we help them build that. So I think that's the key, is getting people open quickly and successful quickly and cash flowing quickly. And if you can do that, we can do that at scale. We can do that with 10 people, 10 franchise partners a month. We can do it with 1 franchise partner a month. So I think that's the key, though, is you don't, like you said, you don't outpace and sell more than you can handle. So we've been careful about that, but we've been building out our team to support that and make sure we don't fall in that trap.
I keep on listening to it. I keep on looking at your title, and I understand that you're a founder and you've used the word entrepreneur, but I was like, I don't like that title for you. I like chief of scale or something bigger, because it's like founder puts you into like, who has founder syndrome in this world? Your brain works much bigger than the word founder. Do you look at the word founder, like, does that connect with you, or is it bigger than that?
Well, I think founders, we all have a lot of things wrong with us that becomes our superpower. We're difficult to work with. We're extremely driven. We're just, so I think that that does resonate a little bit, but my official title inside of the company is CTO, CTM, Chief Troublemaker. So, that, and I think founders really good. I only have 3 jobs in my company, three roles. Culture, spend a lot of time on culture, our culture and our values. If you're an employee, we hire on it, fire on it. So I'm talking about 30 minutes to everybody that comes in. This is our culture. These are values. This is what it looks like. If you like these things or really want to be a part of this, it's going to be nirvana. If you don't, it's not going to last long. And same thing with franchise partners. Spend a lot of time on values, culture. That's so critical. I did not learn that lesson my first time I franchised or any of my other businesses. And if you try to do it after you get to a certain size, it's too late. So culture, and then, I think culture and then vision is critical. And I talk a lot about where we're going, what we're doing, because those are 2 things that you really can't, if you don't do those things as a leader of the company, no one else is going to do them for you. And the third thing is that I'm very good at is I come up with 20 ideas a day, but only one of them's good usually. So my team's got to figure out, my COO and my team has to figure out which is the good one, which aren't the good ones. So yeah, I think those are things that founders do. And, the personality of a founder sometimes has all those ingredients that sometimes they're difficult, but to start a company and grow it. I'm also not the one to be around when we get to standard sort of 20% average growth. That's where I kind of found myself with Shelf Genie. And it was frustrating. So I love the startup world, love the go fast. My favorite definition of an entrepreneur or, founder is we jump off a cliff and build a plane on the way down. Mm-hmm. And that's the exact opposite of what we want our franchise partners to do. So we've already built the plane and we're helping them learn how to fly it. We're improving it in flight, but we got a flying plane for them.
Maybe that's your why you why now. If I landed on your website and it said we built the plane, we're going to show you how to fly it. I think that's an interesting place. So
I'm hiring you to do my website.
Right. Good.
You're hired.
So let's end on this. Let's say a candidate has watched us to this point. What else do you want them to know about Art of Drawers?
Well, I think, like I said before, we're looking for a very specific person and I think every time you buy a franchise, you got to look at what's the day in the life, because it's not about the thing. It's not about cutting hair. It's not about grooming dogs. It's not about custom drawers. It's really what's the day in the life of what's it going to look like for you. And we've built a system that if you can focus on recruiting and training designers, we have the sales process, we can teach it to you, but you're just going to recruit and train designers, and you're recruiting people who do not have this is their full-time job. So interior designers, professional organizers, they add it on, they self-generate sales, run some of yours. I think that's the main part of what we want you to do. And if you can focus on that and let us do everything else, a day in the life looks like, hey, I've built a great team. I'm going to go on vacation for 2 weeks. We can approve your sales for you. We can assign those to your install partners that handle everything. And when you come back from vacation after 2 weeks, you don't have that inbox you're dreading to look at. So I think that's the lifestyle. I think but we're also looking for empire builders. We want people who are going to build a very large system with the territories we've given, not buy a job.
I think the magic in your statement is there are so many franchisors that you buy into the brand, and now I have to be an expert in HR, supply chain management, build out, real estate. Like the list just keeps going on. And you're like, let's keep you focused on where you're going to impact your outcomes and your financial dreams as much as humanly possible. Let us figure out how we can keep building scaffolding around you. And I think that's part of the magic of looking at your business. And I think it's awesome. Obviously, great conversation. Love your train of thought. It's very aligned with mine. And I appreciate you sharing some of your story with us today.
Thanks, Nick.
For Allan, I'm Nick. This is another episode of Meet the Zor.